Let's go, girl.
Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe.
It's Women Talking Football, or WTF for short. Of course, never, ever, ever to be confused with WFT. My name is Mallory Hartley. I'm the associate producer here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Dave Campbell's Texan Live. Once again, sitting in the hostess's chair / host chair. And sitting over there, turning the dials, she is the AP to my AP. She's the executive producer of this place. It's AP! Ashley Pickle. Hey, what's going on?
What is up? We don't get it confused with being WFT. I can't say that for the sum of the population, but I can say that we will never get it confused that it is WTF.
Nobody should ever get it confused.
No.
Because WTF is a very, very common acronym for something that we say quite often in this place. So how can you get it confused? Anyways, let's move on to our next one.
We tried to make it a layup. Apparently, it's not.
It's not. It's not to some people, but that's okay. That's why we're here to remind you. Also, happy Star Wars Day.
Yeah,
it's May the 4th.
Be with you.
Do you like Star Wars?
Oh yeah, I do. I'm a big Star Wars fan.
I love that.
I feel like most people are either Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. I definitely leaned on I never watched the Lord of the Rings. I'm big Star Wars.
I've never seen it either. I have not seen any of the new Star Wars movies.
Like the prequels?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have not seen any of the new ones, but I saw the original 6.
Yes,
so the
correct.
4, 5, 6, and then you go 1, 2, 3. I've seen all 6 of those, and my mom showed those to us very early on, so I've always been a Star Wars fan.
Correct.
But
you and I both. I got a Star Wars Christmas sweater.
That's dope. I need one
Correct.
of those. That's pretty cool. I enjoy that.
Can confirm it. It is dope.
It is dope. Well, happy May the 4th. May the force be ever in your favor. Oh, wait, I just switched it.
That's okay.
That was Star Wars and then Hunger Games.
Back to Star Wars.
May the force be with you. That's funny. That is really funny. Wait.
No, you added an extra whistle. It was close. You almost had it.
Whatever. Anyways.
We tried.
Happy Star Wars Day. This is episode 37 of Women Talking Football. I cannot believe it's already episode 37. But we're an internet show. We're here every Thursday talking football around the Lone Star State. And usually we talk about Texas high school football and college football. But today we're going to dabble a little bit in the NFL. If you remember, the NFL draft happened this weekend, and quite a few former Texas high school football players were selected in the 2023 NFL draft, and we're going to go through each and every one of those names for you. And then in the back half of the show, we are joined by a very special guest, fellow North Texas Mean Green alumni.
Oh.
She is the Dallas Cowboys team reporter, Miss Hailey Sutton. She was going to join us in studio, but got caught up in all the Dallas Cowboys work she's doing over there, so she will just be calling in today, but super, super pumped to have her on today. All right. The NFL draft happened this weekend, like we said, and a lot of Texas high school football players were in the spotlight. Mm-hmm. Now, are you a draft person? We talked about this on the Republic of Football.
Yeah,
and
so
I'm curious as to your
very
opinion.
much enjoy the first round. I will sit there and I watch it. I think the first round is getting a little long, if you ask me. But
agreed.
One night a year, yeah, I really do enjoy the first round. After that, I definitely keep up with it, but it is solely on a social media or like an ESPN push notification, like that kind of stuff. First round, I sat down and watched the entire thing. Anything after that, I'm sorry, but unless there's someone I'm like incredibly curious where they're going, then no, I'm not tuning into it. I'm not ruining my weekend, but letting it take up my entire weekend.
Right. Now, I completely agree with you. I am a first round kind of person because of all the hype behind it and everything and how much effort they do put into that first Thursday night.
Event, and it's fun to
they
watch.
make it an event.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. However, I'm also a big college football fan.
Yes.
So I do like, especially when I get to see Michigan State players go, I think that's pretty cool. So I'll keep watching up until that point. But it's also just kind of cool to see some of the Texas college players that get drafted because, you know, we talk about them every week on Republic of Football and we go see their games every single week. So it's kind of cool to see these players that we've watched
for
4 years plus, finally making their dreams come true and getting the chance to play at the highest level possible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was down in Houston when this was going on, surrounded by quite a bit of Cougars fans.
Definitely.
And when Tank Dell got drafted, everyone was excited, but we knew that was coming. But when Clayton Tune got drafted, that's when everyone was like,
that was
hey,
awesome.
it happened. And like, so it was cool to, you get the notification or you're watching, and it's like, hey, look, it happened. So that's about my interest level in the draft.
Yeah. No, it's a fun event. And I'm glad they do make it such a fun event every single year because it, gets people to watch all the way up until the end.
Well, and that's what they've been working, 22, 23 years of their life
for this
get
moment,
to that moment.
For this actual moment.
That's the coolest part for me. It's not necessarily like the X's and O's perspective of it that gets me super excited because I know that football's just still, it seems so far away.
Right.
But it's the seeing someone and hearing the stories of like, I've dreamt of this forever and this is like the night it's finally happening.
Right. Exactly. Well, altogether, I believe there were about 38 former Texas high school football players that were, I guess to lump them all together, assigned to an NFL team, whether that be they were drafted in one of the 7 rounds or that they were signed on after the fact. Today, we're only focusing on the 28 former Texas high school football players that were selected in one of the 7 rounds of this year's NFL draft. So just keep that in mind when going through all of these names. But let's go ahead and look at the first round. 4 former Texas high school football players were selected in the 2023 NFL draft this year in the first round, which is insane. I think that is so stinking interesting. So first over,
I was gonna say that's 12.5%.
That's
the first
exactly.
round. I was doing the math real fast.
Yeah.
It's 12.5% because 4 out of the 32 draft picks. I mean, that's a good percentage.
That's pretty dang good. So the first Texas high school football player that went in the NFL draft was Tyree Wilson out of West Rusk. He was picked by the Las Vegas Raiders, and he also played at Texas Tech. He was a standout there, so super happy to see him as the first Texas high school football player to be picked.
Unbelievable fit, too, man. Did you see the fit he was wearing?
Oh, yeah.
That thing was fresh.
He was ready.
he knew he was going high.
Yes, he did. He knew the first round was for him. At pick 17, the second Texas high school football player to be picked was Christian Gonzalez out of the Colony. He was picked by the New England Patriots. They did well in the draft this year, I think.
They did.
At pick 20, Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Rockwall, played at Ohio State, picked by the Seattle Seahawks. And man, this one I think hits home for you because you covered him in high school over there in Rockwall.
We were discussing this a little bit with the entire team because obviously you and I we're the 2 youngest on the editorial video perspective over here, and this was the first time since I've been covering Texas high school football that I was like, oh my God, I really like genuinely hardcore covered this kid. And that's the first time being 26 that I've like experienced that. But yeah, I was there when Jackson Smith-Njigba had his 6 touchdown game in the area around to beat Allen. And so it was like that to this day, since I didn't get to see North Shore Duncanville in 2018 in person, that 2019 area round game is still the best Texas high school football game I've seen in person. So
You'll never forget that.
No, absolutely not. To see him go, and I had the chance to interview him afterwards for Fox Sports Southwest at the time. So yeah, that was a really like a sentimental little like I was like, oh, there's my boy, because I covered Rockwall probably about 3 times that season for Fox Sports Southwest. So
you just became really familiar with him and the team.
Yeah, he knew I was gonna talk to him every single time and kind of remembered who I was. So it was that was the first like, I'm old.
It's funny. We drove out to the lake this weekend, and I was with my dad, and I was like, we obviously go through Rockwall, and I was like, Dad, that's where Jackson Smith-Njigba played. And he's like, what? And I was like, never mind. But that's where we played. The Ohio State wide receiver that just got drafted. But anyways.
And your dad's like, you're a sicko.
Yeah, correct. He did. He actually absolutely said that. But anyways, congrats to him. Fantastic kid. And last Texas high school football player that got picked in the first round was Quentin Johnston out of Temple High School, picked to the Los Angeles Chargers there. He was a standout wide receiver at TCU. Super happy. One of, I think, 8 TCU players that were drafted this weekend. So they sure cleaned up down there in Fort Worth. So that's the first round. Let's move on to the second round. Only 3 players selected from that played Texas high school football. At pick 36, Steve Avila, also from TCU. He played at South Grand Prairie, drafted to the Los Angeles Rams. Pick 55, this one's awesome. Rashee Rice from Richland, up here, North Richland Hills.
Let's go.
For the Kansas City Chiefs, he played at SMU. He's a standout at SMU, so super excited to see him go. And at pick 63 from in the second round, we've got Marvin Mims Jr. of Frisco Lone Star. He played at Oklahoma, and he was drafted to the Denver Broncos. Now, I feel like that's a name that I haven't heard from in a little bit. I think that we actually talked to Marvin Mims at Big 12 Media Day, I think. This year or something. I think Ish interviewed him or something. But when I saw that he went, I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Just because we get so close-minded when, not close-minded, but we're so closed off from the outskirts of college football. Like, we're only focused on Texas. So seeing, like, the name Marvin Mims Jr. pop up, I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember.
His senior season was the same one as Jackson Smith-Njigba, and he was our Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year.
That's right. So super pumped to see him go as well. Moving on to the third round. 4 Texas high school football players selected in the third round. At pick 67, Drew Sanders out of Denton Ryan. He played at Alabama first, I believe, and then transferred to Arkansas. He was drafted by the Denver Broncos. At pick 71, another TCU Horned Frog, Kendra Miller, standout running back over there. Played high school football at Mount Enterprise, and he was drafted by the New Orleans Saints. At pick 84, Devon Achane of Fort Bend Marshall. He was drafted by the Miami Dolphins and played all 4 years, I believe, at Texas A&M. And then finally at pick 90, DeMarvion Overshone of ARP, a standout Texas Longhorn, staying home, I should say. He was drafted by none other than the Dallas Cowboys. So that's pretty cool to me to see that he gets to stay in his home. ARP, Texas, if you can look on the map, if you don't know where ARP is, it's kind of way out there by Texarkana, way out there in East Texas. So I would assume that he grew up as a Dallas Cowboys fan. So to see him getting drafted probably by the team he grew up watching, that's pretty stinking cool.
It really is. Yeah, there was a lot of pictures of him walking into Texas games with cowboy hats, or like when he was really little, wearing Dallas Cowboy stuff. So yeah, that was very much a cool homecoming.
Yeah. Let's move on to the 4th and 5th round. We lumped these together because there's so many. Oh wait, no, yes. 4th and 5th round. We lumped these together because there was only one, I believe, that was selected in the 5th round. I think that was Clayton Tune. But at pick 109, Dylan Horton of Frisco. Frisco High School, I should say. He was drafted by the Houston Texans, so he kind of gets to stay home too a little bit. Pick 115, Roshan Johnson of Port Neches Groves. He was drafted by the Chicago Bears. Pick 118, Braden Daniels of Hebron High School, selected to the Washington Commanders. At pick 130, Tyler Lacey of Saxe was picked by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then, of course, at pick 139, we've already mentioned him, former Houston quarterback Clayton Tune of Hebron High School. I did not realize he went to Hebron, by the way. I was doing that. I was like, that's really cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's bounced around a lot, but high school was one thing that he stayed there.
Yeah, definitely. Selected by the Arizona Cardinals. That's a great fit for him, especially because I think he'll get to back up a great like Kyler Murray, and maybe get some playing time if Kyler can't stay healthy. So that was a great pick by
right there.
Seriously, I tell you that, Texas high school football takes over the world. I'm not even kidding. It really, truly does. But
always been king.
It is. All right, let's move on to the 6th round. Had a ton of former Texas high school football players go here. Pick 182, another TCU guy, Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson of Waco Midway, drafted to the Los Angeles Rams. At pick 185, Parker Washington of William B. Travis, selected to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pick 189, O'Shawn Mathis, a former TCU Horned Frog. He ended up transferring to Nebraska his senior year from Manor, Texas. Manor. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
It's just going to scream at me.
I love that that's the one you didn't know how to say it. So good.
I know it's some, it's a different way to say it, but Manor. From Manor, Texas. He was drafted to... Shout out Ishmael Johnson. He was drafted to the Los Angeles Rams. At pick 195, Keandra Coburn of Spring Westfield was drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs. Pick 197, Elijah Higgins from Austin Bowie was selected by the Miami Dolphins. This one was really cool, and I'm really excited to ask Hailey about this one. At pick 212, selected by got a call from his own father. It was Deuce Vaughn, Kansas State running back and Cedar Ridge alum, was selected by the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't know if you guys saw the video, but his dad works as I don't know what his official title is, but he works as a recruiter or something for the Dallas Cowboys. So he was actually in the draft room with McCarthy and Jerry Jones, and he's the one that got to call Deuce Vaughn and say, hey, you want to come work with me? And it was really stinking cool.
Really good. I like that pick a lot for the Cowboys at that spot.
I do too.
We can have a conversation about what I feel about some of the earlier picks that they made, but this one I think is a really, really good pick for them. I think he could make a heck of a little like slot receiver type.
Yeah, definitely.
Or be another Kevontae Turpin on the
seriously
punt returns.
though, agreed.
But no, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really cool.
Yeah. At pick 215, Zach Evans, also a former TCU Horned Frog, but he ended up transferring to Ole Miss, I believe, out of North Shore. He was selected by the Los Angeles Rams. And then the final former Texas high school football player drafted in the 6th round, it was at pick 216, D. Winters of TCU, formerly at Burton High School in Texas. And he was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. That's a lot in the 6th round.
Yeah, that was a big 6th round.
That was a big 6th round. And to round it all out in the 7th round, at pick 221 is Jalen Jones of Cibolo Steel down there in San Antonio, selected by the Indianapolis Colts. At pick 240, Derek Parrish out of Pearland, selected by the Jacksonville Jaguars. At pick 247, Braden Willis out of Arlington Martin, shout out the Agtown, selected by the San Francisco 49ers. You know what? It's funny.
The Ag in San Francisco, you literally can't tell a difference. They're the same places.
No, of course not. Of course not. I see palm trees in my backyard everywhere. Right? There's palm trees or water, I guess. I don't know. I've only been into San Francisco once, and it was a while ago, so I don't remember. But And to round it all out, the final former Texas high school football player selected in the 2023 NFL Draft, it was at pick 249. It was Moro Ojomo.
Yes.
I believe that's how you say his name. Out of Katy High School, selected by the Philadelphia Eagles. Now that's a really good pick, by the way.
The Dirty Birds.
The Dirty Birds. Yeah.
Blech.
Anyways. So there you go. There was all 28 former Texas high school football players that were drafted in one of the 7 rounds in this year's NFL draft. Now, actually, I did the math. So actually 16 of them out of the 28 stayed home to play college ball. Now, realistically, it was 18. O'Shawn Mathis and then, I'm blanking on the other one, Zach Evans, who both started off at TCU but ended up transferring otherwise.
Out, yeah.
But that's because I feel like we talk about it all the time, how we in the past, I feel like Texas colleges have had trouble keeping
the talent in state. But I feel like this is a really good measurement stick of, hey, things are changing here. And I think that's a really good stat to be known, because I feel like there is such a stigma around that, but you know, it's improving and it's getting better. No, I think it is, and I think a lot of that has been the coaches that you've seen take over these college programs of having Texas high school football ties between Jeff Traylor, Joey McGuire, now GJ Kinney. I mean, you're really getting those people that want the Texas bona fides coming in. So I'm interested to see what happens. I think that there will be a different sample size between these past couple of years where people are really taking a lot of Texas kids. Now everyone's shifting into new conferences. I'm interested to see how that affects that.
Yes, I think so too, because cool. I feel like there is such a there's a different stigma around what we consider a Power 5 college football program, which I don't even think you can use that term anymore. It's more like a Power 2.
Yeah.
But with all these programs moving up and at, different competition levels. The competition is seen as greater now, especially for Texas moving into the SEC and even North Texas moving into the American.
Well, and that's the thing is you've got to think about so many of the Texas teams now are in the exact same conference. Like they were with the Big 12, but now it's Big 12 in like multiple different fashions of like Tech, TCU, and Houston and all of them are still going to be competing for all of the same kids. Right. Now North Texas is competing with SMU and UTSA and like Rice, how does that transition what SMU is able to do recruiting, right? Because now they're having like 5 other Texas teams join them. So it'll be really interesting to see from that perspective with so many teams being in the same conferences.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Great point. So there you go. Congratulations to all of the former Texas high school football players that were either drafted or signed on to play at the very highest level of football. That is an unbelievable achievement that you can reach, and it's really, really cool to see you guys living up to, your highest expectations and following your dreams. So congratulations to everybody that was at least signed on this weekend to an NFL
There's a
team.
lot of undrafted free agents that were out of Texas, too. I think when you combined all of those together, there were 45 of them, I believe is what we had talked about. So that's a ton. Yeah.
Well, and it's cool to see also, we didn't talk about it, but Bijan Robinson and then Max Duggan, they, of course, did not play Texas high school football here, but they played college football here, and they made a huge impact on the state. So it was really cool to see them, live out their dream as well. So we are Women Talking Football. We are here every Thursday at 2 p.m. talking college football, Texas high school football, and now NFL football around the Lone Star State. We are about to have Miss Hailey Sutton on, but before we get to that, let's hear a word from our good friends at VCR Now.
Born and bred in Texas hits a little different, as it should. Texas loves doing business with fellow Texans. VCR Now takes its Texas roots as seriously as its many partnerships with schools and universities around the state. It's also why we're so proud to promote our brand in the pages of the Texas Bible, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and on the airwaves of Texas Football Today. Driven by producing quality broadcast video, state-of-the-art audio, and LED video scoreboards at affordable prices, VCR Now makes sure to listen to your needs in its athletic department before recommending the next best steps. Building great products is our business, and it's our focus on building meaningful long-term partnerships with our clients that sets us apart. From our 24/7, 365-day help desk, the training lab in our hometown of Red Oak, or our sports marketing business plan that puts money back in the hands of our athletic departments we support, VCR Now is built to last. Reach out to us today at info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW. Again, that's info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW.
Thank you to our friends at VCR Now. All right, Pickle, let's head on over to the hotline and let's bring in former Mean Green alum and Dallas Cowboys team reporter, Miss Hailey Sutton. Hailey, how you doing, girl?
Hi, I'm going to be honest. I'm exhausted. It's been a wild couple of weeks.
I completely
but I'm
understand.
excited. I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for coming on. I know, like you said, it's been a busy couple weeks for you, but we're super excited to talk to you about the NFL draft and how the Dallas Cowboys did. But before that, for all of our viewers, watching our show, we love our guests to talk about themselves for a little bit. So kind of give us your elevator pitch. Who are you? Where do you work? And how did you get to where you are now?
Oh my gosh, girlies, we need more than a day to talk about how I got here. No, I'm just kidding. My name is Hailey Sutton. I'm currently the team reporter for the Dallas Cowboys. I also host a couple of shows with fellow Mean Green alum Kyle Yeoman. So a lot of Mean Green up here in the Cowboys facility at the Star in Frisco. That basically just means I'm doing a little bit of everything. We podcast up here like crazy. I host a couple TV shows. I get to kind of get close with the players, share their stories, do a lot of features. I'm working on a recap right now for the home run derby last night that raised a lot of money for a lot of really great charities. So fun stuff like that. Born and raised right here in Texas. I graduated from Red Oak High School before going down to Texas A&M Corpus Christi to play soccer and get my undergrad degree. And then I transferred to the University of North Texas to finish my soccer career with the John Headland.
Yes.
Graduated from North Texas with my master's in journalism. And then I did the wildest thing and I moved to Montana for my first job. I spent 2 years up in Great Falls, Montana, covering everything from six-man football, a little bit of rodeo, did some interesting water sports coverage up there. So definitely interesting times up there. Then I went to Alabama. Covered a little SEC football, a couple national championships before heading to Miami for a few months. I was working at a television station in Miami, and then Kyle picked up the phone and said, hey, come work with us here at the Cowboys facility, and the rest is kind of history. So I've been here creeping up on 7 months now, but it feels like it's been an eternity just with the way that our schedule and everything works. We're kind of cruising into the official off season the next couple of weeks. So we'll be excited to kind of reset and refresh. And then training camp will be here in July.
Man, I'm telling you, that Mean Green connection is strong. I think all three of us can agree to that. It really is strong in the DFW area. We're leaving our mark for sure. Now, like you said, you were a standout soccer player at the University of North Texas, and what a standout program that Coach Headland has been at the helm over there. What was it like, being covered by sports journalists, I guess you could say, being interviewed by everybody that wanted to cover the UNT soccer team, to transitioning into a sports journalist, I guess, yourself?
Yeah, it was interesting because while I was playing soccer, I was getting my master's degree. And when I was at UNT, I always tell people I never slept because I did, absolutely everything. I worked for the production team up there, Mean Green Productions, doing everything from shooting games and then eventually working my way onto some on-air stuff for them. I interned with ESPN Radio. I interned at Fox Sports Southwest. I was freelance writing for a newspaper in Prosper, all while getting my master's degree and also being a teaching assistant for some awesome professors. So I really honestly didn't have a chance to think about it. I was just so determined to make it in this business. I know as women, and you guys can probably echo this, it's doubly, triply challenging for us to be able to, get our foot in the door, have that respect. And so my goal was to not give anyone an excuse to not hire me, or to not give anyone an excuse to not take me seriously. And so, a lot of times I would see what other journalists were doing, how they were covering things and saying, how can I apply this to my own self? And I try to keep that at the forefront now that I'm, where I am today, just making sure that those small morals and the things that I learned really early on, how that can kind of connect and carry over into what I'm doing right now. So it is super humbling. I actually just emceed the Scrappy Awards up there on Monday. And that was such like a humbling full circle experience because my last year I was there was the first year they started doing Scrappies. So it made me feel a little bit old, but also just was so cool to look at, the next generation of whatever those athletes in the room plan on doing, just being the liaison for them and hopefully continuing to be a role model to people in this industry. It's super humbling, but I got to be honest, I'm still learning every day. There's things that I can continue to grow and learn from. And there's so many incredible people just in the DFW area that you can take a lot from. So it's still a journey, but yeah, it's definitely full circle moment a lot this year.
Well, and that really, it leads in perfectly to the fact that obviously you went through your train of getting to where you are at now, and obviously there is a big difference between working at a local news station from Montana all the way down to the high market of Miami, but now you've really been able to fully transition over into being able to cover one specific team, really being the inside expert on the beat for that. What has that transition been like with you? Because when you're MMJing, you were doing everything about every team and all of that. Now it's like, hey, you're still doing it in a lot of different ways, but it's all about one subject. How has that transition been for you?
Yeah, it was difficult at first because as someone coming from local news, number one, the way my brain operates, it's like, okay, I have this at this time. I have this at this time. My deadline is this time. So how much can I get done in this time period? And I know exactly where it's going. I know that I'm flipping a package for the 4:00 newscast, and I have to turn around and shoot highlights for the 10:00 show. Mm-hmm. Here, it's obviously a little bit different because our content goes out at different times. Your deadlines are a little bit different. And so it's really kind of given me the creative freedom to work on certain projects, give them a little bit more love, kind of be able to touch up on my editing skills a little bit. And then on the flip side of that too, like this is an interesting role because, you're developing into a personality. And I hate using that term because I think it's so cheesy, but the reality is, especially within the Cowboys fan base, they look to a lot of us in the building as, their go-to personalities, their go-to people. And so I've had to step up my game when it comes to, how am I covering the team? Like, how am I watching film? How am I analyzing these players? Am I looking at them from the lens of, the rookies coming in next week, for example? Are we going to evaluate them based on, their skill set and what they bring to the table, and separating that from the fact that I've been a Cowboys fan since I could walk? So that was a difficult transition, but it's really, like I said, it's all about just recognizing that, you're here to do a job. And this is, I would argue, one of the hardest jobs in sports journalism because everybody knows this team. Everybody loves to either love this team or everybody loves to hate this team. And as media representatives for the organization, we fall into that same category. They either love you or they hate you. So it's really all just about, like developing myself just as a more well-rounded reporter, going from, talking to the guys in the locker room and hearing, that Jake Ferguson is excited to welcome another tight end into the group so that he can fit into the four horsemen, but then taking that information and looking at it on film. Well, what does that mean? How is Luke Schoonmaker going to come in and make a difference? Because Mike McCarthy expects him to be a starter, but does he have starting capability? Does that mean that he's affecting Jake Ferguson's playing time? Is that a position battle we have to watch? So it's all just about, shifting your mentality and taking, what I've learned from local news and almost shifting it to more of like an analysis as opposed to like, I've got to get a report out because my deadline is coming up, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and it's kind of cool too, because I guess you don't really have to be neutral, like a neutral reporter, because you are the Dallas Cowboys team reporter. So you can let that, favoritism show just a little bit. It doesn't really have to be pushed aside. So let's talk a little bit about that little thing that happened this weekend, the NFL draft. From an outside perspective, it looked like the Cowboys did pretty well. So I'm curious to know, as the team reporter, what would you grade on an A, B, C, D, F scale? What would you grade the Dallas Cowboys overall from this weekend?
Yeah, I would give them a B. And the only reason why it's not an A is because, you've got to see these guys perform. You can't give these guys grades when you've never even seen how they suit up against, other professional athletes. So I give them a B. I think the biggest thing that the Cowboys fans really have to keep in the forefront is that the front office went into this draft knowing that there were very specific things that they needed to address. The number one issue for the Dallas Cowboys last year was the run defense. They had a difficult time stopping the run, mostly because they had shifted Micah Parsons out to more of an edge. And so he was trying to keep that side of, or keep the edges rather contained, leaving a lot of space on the defensive line. You brought in Jonathan Hankins at the trade deadline. He made a big impact and then he got hurt. And you saw immediately the drop off of that run defense that had improved when you brought in Jonathan Hankins. So what did they do when they go into the draft? Their first pick, they take 330, 6'4", Mozzie Smith, who is absolutely going to clog up any holes on that interior defensive line. And then the next issue that they have to address is blocking. But what a lot of people don't recognize with the release of Ezekiel Elliott is one of his best qualities was pass protection. He was an incredible blocker for Dak Prescott, and a lot of times the reasons why we didn't see that explosive run that we were used to seeing in vintage Zeke was because his role had shifted a little bit. He was a red zone scorer and a pass protector. So what do you do in that? You go in the second round and you draft a Luke Schoonmaker, a guy whose bread and butter is blocking, playing in that Michigan offensive scheme. So I really liked how they went in, they addressed things that needed to be addressed off the top. And then it kind of became a luxury down the stretch, well, now how can we get creative? We can add a DeMarvion Overshone in, who's going to be a linebacker for us, but also has some really great special teams ability. And they just kind of kept going down the checkpoint. And then obviously the Deuce Vaughn story. I mean, I couldn't have been more excited for that as someone who got to meet and chat with Deuce Vaughn at the Combine. This was really like a cool full circle moment for him to be in here. And he's the ball player. So I think they really did a good job of addressing the things that needed to be addressed. Now the next layer is those rookies coming in, and even the undrafted guys that they added after the draft is seeing who are going to be guys who are going to compete for spots on that 53.
Absolutely. And now looking ahead to the 2023 season, obviously a lot of momentum coming off of a really, record-breaking year for the Cowboys last year. How are they going to build off the momentum from, everything that they were able to achieve last year, especially in the postseason?
Yeah, I think the glaring issue is obviously the deflating loss to the 49ers in back-to-back seasons, especially when they happened in very similar fashions. And listen, these guys don't forget. The team word last year was resilience, and that word was selected by Mike McCarthy because of how much this team wanted to come back from that 2021 season and make progress. And I think they did make progress. It's obviously frustrating when your team doesn't make it to the Super Bowl, but they did a lot of good things last year, especially when you factor in the fact that your starting quarterback didn't play for the first 6 games of the season. You had your backup quarterback in, and you were able to make it. I mean, Cooper Rush went 4-1 to start the year. Like, that was the reason why this team was so successful, that and the defense, obviously. So now, back-to-back years of difficult finishes in the postseason. We got past the first round hump. So I think Mike McCarthy's big thing is you have to keep building. And with him taking over play calling responsibilities, it shows how much Jerry Jones has built that trust within him. He's going to have a little bit more control. He's already shown that he is committing to being more of a run-first team. He's committing to utilizing his tight ends in a way that's a little bit more creative. And then obviously the defense under Dan Quinn is pretty much unstoppable, especially given the pieces that they've added. So the number one thing I would say about these guys is they're committed. They're out here at practice every day. Most of them are here. It's voluntary workouts right now. I think the only guy who comes to mind who's not here is Micah, and he's down in Austin training to get bigger and stronger and faster and all of that. So I think this group has the sour taste in their mouth again. They're super committed to the process. And they like each other a lot. And I know that sounds like such a silly thing, but I think why they were so successful in those moments when Cooper Rush is behind center is because everybody on the team has each other's back. There's no cliques. There's no drama. There's no he said, she said. They all take accountability, and they all want to win for one another. And so as much as the on-the-field stuff is important, that stuff is important as well. And so I think now you get a nice draft class in again for back-to-back seasons. You filled in those positions. All that's left is to go out there and play ball. So it feels pretty good from the offensive or from the off-season standpoint.
Well, as a Dallas Cowboys fan myself, you got me pretty hyped for the season. I am really, really excited. She is Dallas Cowboys team reporter, Miss Hailey Sutton. Hailey, really, really appreciate your time coming in and hopping on our all-female podcast. And do you want to give a little plug to you? I know you guys have an all-female podcast as well. It's Girls Talk, Boys Talk.
Yeah, our awesome group of gals, Aisha Morrison and Jess Navarez. It was pioneered by Jane Slater, who is the NFL network reporter for the Cowboys. And she's really kind of allowed us to spread our wings and develop in our own ways as she's, doing all the things that off season's required of her. But I just want to flip it back and give you guys a shout out because, when we were starting and we were getting into this, the idea that women could talk football or talk sports in general is still kind of taboo. It's changing every day, but it's really exciting just to see how many powerhouse women just in Texas alone are stepping up. They're holding everyone to a higher standard, but really just proving that, you don't have to take a snap of NFL football to understand the game. You don't have to ever have even played football to understand the game. Right. You can talk and you can learn and you can develop. So I'm really proud of you guys too, especially coming from the same college, and we're all out here setting the tone. So a lot of good content to choose from for our Texas listeners.
Absolutely. She is Miss Hailey Sutton. Hailey, really appreciate your time. I hope to see you soon and try and get some sleep here in the next couple of days.
Thanks, Hailey.
No, what sleep? We don't need that.
There she goes, Hailey Sutton. You can follow her on Twitter @_Hailey Sutton for all your Dallas Cowboys news and notes and whatever you'd like. I'm just blown away. She is very, very well versed in all things Dallas Cowboys. I mean, she really, no surprise here, but she really does know her stuff. So go give her a follow on Twitter to get your Dallas Cowboys news.
Oh yeah, and that's honestly why I was just so interested to hear how her transition has gone, because I've followed her. I mean, her and I went to college together.
Right.
And obviously she talked about the first scrappies. I was there when the first scrappies were happening as a part of the marketing department and stuff, not as an athlete. But I've watched her go, I mean, every single step. It hasn't been a surprise that she's moved up and up and up. But I remember the days when she was in Montana and I would see her up there freezing her butt off and I'm going, I don't know how she's doing that.
Right.
And then when she finally got the job in Miami, I was like, man, I am so stinking proud of her. And then when I found out she was coming back home, I was like, this is just awesome. But I wondered, I was like, that's a real, I've never done the local news reporting, but I know from all my friends that have, that's a really hard switch to flip.
It is.
Saying, hey, I'm going to go from covering literally everything under the sun that happens in this one city or in the surrounding areas to starting to do for our standpoint, a statewide thing.
Right.
Or then going to the Cowboys and being the expert. It did not surprise. I was like, yeah, give this girl time to focus on one team and she's going to just crush
Absolutely.
So I was so excited when she got that Cowboys job and Kyle and all of them. Nick Harris now, our buddies over there. So the Cowboys they've started hiring really, really well, and I'm pumped to watch what that team does over there. It'll be exciting.
I agree. All Mean Green alum too.
Yeah.
So that's even better.
Yeah.
We're painting this off screen.
We are.
We're painting DFW green.
We're painting DFW green.
Caw always and go Mean Green always. Well, I think that's gonna do it for us. You can subscribe to us, of course, as always on Apple Music, not Spotify. What? Do you have?
I have one more.
Something?
Yeah.
Well, I was about to ask you, do you have anything else?
Oh, well, I was going to say something that we should have been promoting for a couple of weeks now that I don't think has made it to WTF. We've been talking about it on Texas Football Today, but this weekend, you're going to be on camera this weekend because we are headed down to do, for the second time, the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. The banquet is being had Saturday evening in Waco. There will be a press conference at 4, and then we will do an hour-long pregame show heading up to the Hall of Fame. So pregame show starting at 6, banquet, we will stream the entire banquet live. Matthew Stafford will be there, speaking of, NFL, because that's what this show has been on. But Mallory's going to get an interview with Matthew Stafford, so we were super excited for that. But Greg Tepper, Ishmael Johnson, Mallory Hartley, they'll have you covered this weekend from the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. You can watch that for free on TexanLive.com. So 6 o'clock this Saturday night, Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. Make sure to tune in on TexanLive.com.
Yeah, my dad's pumped because he's a Lions fan. So obviously the only thing that Lions fans have to grab onto right now is Matthew Stafford, their former quarterback. So that's super fun. Yeah, it'll be a blast. I'm super excited for it. The event went so well last year. We're excited to make it even better and make those improvements for this year. So thank you to our wonderful guest, Hailey Sutton. For Ashley Pickle, I'm Mallory Hartley. We'll see you next Thursday on Women Talking Football.